Was it nice? Because presumably having your children spending time here was quite nice.
Yes.
Because are they American children?
You said it kind of sneeringly.
No,
Like
don't.
This is getting weirder.
Yeah. Put your cap on, you'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly.
You like dry heaved. You were like, are they American?
Said it kind of sneering. I love Emily and John. That's celebrated talk show host Graham Norton, who's known for asking just the right questions to help his celebrity guests tell their stories. He's quite good. He's also a very good storyteller himself. As a best-selling author of not one, not two, not three, but 4 novels. Guess what? This is number 5, I'm thinking. Best-selling author on the way again. It's called Frankie. It's about an 84-year-old Irish woman who tells her caretaker about her extraordinary life. And the life is extraordinary, from Ireland to London to 1960s New York even. We're happy to say that Graham Norton is here in studio, but you came across the pond.
I did.
To join us in the studio. Graham,
Like Frankie.
So good, so good to have you back, Graham.
It's lovely to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm curious about where Frankie came from, because we meet her as a young girl who's gone through a tragic thing right up until her 80s. Where did she come from in your mind?
Well, I think the beginning of the novel was I just wanted to tell the story of a life. It's it's the OG story. It's the plot we all have.
OG story.
And so I wanted to do that. And so, you know, it's much easier, I think, because you don't want to tell every moment. So to do it in bits, it's much easier to have someone remembering.
Yes.
So that's why she starts off as this old woman, and she meets a carer, this young boy called Damien, who happens to be from the same little bit of Ireland as
Where
she
she's
is.
from.
And that kind of unlocks something in her. That kind of weird connection makes her travel back to Ireland, and then she starts telling her story.
But I thought it was such a good storytelling device, because she's telling Damien, but she's also telling us, and then it goes to present time with her and Damien, and boy, what a life she's had.
Yes, and I think what I like about that device, about having a young carer, is how a young person and an old person see things so differently.
Yes.
You know, I remember years ago when I was a kid, there was a Peanuts cartoon, and Lucy was talking to Charlie Brown. And I must have been 8 or 9 when I saw this cartoon. And Lucy's saying to Charlie Brown, you know, in every life, one day must be better than all the others. And Charlie Brown goes, yes. And Lucy goes, what if you've had it? And as an 8-year-old, I just thought, that's just so awful. What if the rest of my life is, you know, that Christmas 2 years ago was my best time?
Right.
But of course, when you're in your 80s, you know probably the best day of your life is behind you, but it's not an upsetting thought, because it's something to treasure, that memory of that love that you had, or the love that you lost, or the trauma or the happiness, whatever it is. It's something to be proud of, that you lived through it.
And knowing a little bit about you and your journey, there are these parallels between you and Frankie.
Yes. Frankie doesn't go anywhere I haven't been.
Right.
She doesn't? No?
No.
But you also left to chase your own story and create your own identity. What are more relatable connections between you and Frankie?
Well, I suppose the difference between my story and Frankie's story is I was proactive. You know, I wanted to leave Ireland, and I wanted to pursue a career in show business, whether it was acting or comedy. I didn't know. I just wanted to do that. Whereas Frankie's an oddly passive character.
Yeah.
Stuff happens to her.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people live their life like that, where they're just kind of a bit windswept. They don't quite know what's going on.
Stuff just happens to them, and they're reacting.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to set up Frankie a little bit. She's in a loveless marriage as a young girl. She's 18, he's 40-something. And she gets out of that and has a best friend, and the adventures that they have together.
Yeah, and I think that's another kind of through thing, is that friendship. And I think as you get older, the importance of shared history.
Yeah.
And how lovely that is, that you can talk to someone and you have a shorthand that you don't have with anyone else.
But Graham, we should talk about you, because you're here and you're a big deal. Because I read that you were going back looking at old interviews. I could never do. I don't even like to look at myself now. You were gone back and looking at old interviews. Why?
It was awful. It
was awful, or you thought you were awful?
I was awful.
Did you?
Yeah, I mean, the only good thing about looking at old interviews is you kind of think, I've got a bit better. I don't know if I'm any good now, but I'm better than I was. And it was because I was putting together a tour. It was ostensibly a book tour in the UK, and now that tour is going to Australia and New Zealand.
Oh,
and it's
good
me
you.
looking at old clips and telling stories about kind of what happened behind the scenes. You know, drunk guests, funny guests, boring guests.
When you're on book tour, you often read a passage from the novel that you are promoting, and there are some rather steamy passages in there.
All right.
Would you
Look at your copy of the book.
so steamy, I should look at Gayle's copy of the book.
Well thumbed.
Let me write that down.
What was it like reading those for the audiobook?
Awful.
Yeah.
Awful. You're
But you wrote it. How could it be awful?
Because there is a kind of a weird thing where you forget, I'm going to have to read this aloud. So there's two things. There's the accents, which is just awful. You know, like a Swiss person walks into the room, and then you turn the page, you go, oh, now she's talking. Like, what is that going to sound like? But the sex scenes, you're just trying to do. I don't make the noises or anything. I'm just reading the words, and then you're reading, and then you look up, and you see this big producer behind the glass just staring at you. You're just like, this is wrong.
Does anybody say to you, could you read that again? That was good, but could you read that again?
No, they don't want to hear those bits again.
Well, listen, we appreciate you joining us. Thank you so much for stopping by.
My pleasure.
And you know, after times like this, I just say, good chat.
Good chat.
Good chat. Good chat. Frankie is on sale tomorrow, and Graham Norton will be sticking around for CBS Mornings Plus to discuss why he considers Frankie to be his first happy romance.